What's shaking, my friends? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Shay, and today we're going to do a March wrap up. So some of y'all may know that very early in the month of March I had my wisdom teeth, these two, removed surgically from my head, and I was hoping for a shorter recovery. It actually wound up being longer because I wound up getting a dry socket. The procedure itself was more complicated. You know, I was put to sleep, night time, and then I wound up, even though I followed the post-op instructions to a T because I was terrified of getting a dry socket, I got a dry socket. So recovery was longer, which affected my reading. And then the day that I went back to work, my husband's car blew up. The engine blew up. It was bye-bye. It was gone. So that caused additional stress, and then we had to do some vehicle shopping and purchase another vehicle, which affected my reading. And then shortly after that, both my washing machine and my dryer also said bye-bye. We're not gonna work anymore. So there was a lot of stress going on this month, and needless to say, I didn't read as much as I could have. But we're going to talk about what I did read. So I did not DNF any books this month. I read 8 books for a total of 3,730 pages, which I thought was pretty good, to be honest, for how my March went. And as far as my TBR jars, I completed the month. If I can remember, I'll tell you what jar I pulled these books from. So without further ado, we're going to talk about the books that I read in March, starting from my lowest rated books to my highest rated. Coming in at 3 stars, because I did not have any 2-star reads, because if I rate something 2 stars, I would have just DNF'd it. But coming in at my lowest rated book of the month, It's One of Us by J.T. Ellison. This was a new release book that I pulled out of my new release jar last month and came out last month. This is a mystery thriller. I've never read one of J.T. Ellison's books previously, so this is my first. High trigger warnings if you have ever struggled with infertility. So the book opens up with our main character. She struggles with infertility. She's actually at the beginning of the book having a miscarriage, and her husband have really just struggled with everything. And they find out that there has been a murder in their town, and the police come knocking on their door and say, hey, guess what? We got a DNA match, and it's to your son. But he doesn't have any son because, remember, his wife has fertility issues. And so then they wound up finding out that he has donated his sperm and he has children, and it goes from there. My problem with this book is, number one, the characters are completely unlikable. I did not like a single character in here. And so sometimes you can have unlikable characters, but you can like them, if you know what I mean. But these were completely unlikable, no redeemable qualities, not any of them. And also the 2 little reveals, twist things, I guessed coming from a mile away. But I could see somebody who, if you have not read a lot of mystery thriller books, you wouldn't see the twist coming. So recommend if you have not read that many books. Then coming in next with a 3-star is going to be The Bands of Mourning by Brandon Sanderson. Listen, it's no shock that I don't like Mistborn Era 2 as much as I liked Mistborn Era 1. I think a lot of people are in that boat. But there was a long time from when I read Shadows of Self to where I read this one. And so I had to read a recap of Shadows of Self. And I actually, for the first 50% of this book, really, really enjoyed it. Probably more than any other book in the series. But then the more that it went on, it was just fine. I gave it 3 stars. I'm going to continue on. Don't know when I'm going to get to the Lost Metal. I don't own the Lost Metal, but hoping to get to it soon. I pulled this one out of my sequel jar. So the next book that I read, and you may say, Shay, did you not put that on your April TBR? I did, but then I had some days left at the end of March and decided to go ahead and pick it up, and that's going to be Cold Days by Jim Butcher, which is number 14 of the Dresden Files. And I gave it 3 stars. It was fine. I think that, in my personal opinion, I'm going to get attacked for this, that Dresden is just fine. I don't hate the series. I don't love the series. I do think the series is overhyped. There is only one book that I gave 5 stars, and that was Changes. The rest of them have been probably more of a 3 stars than 4 stars. He's fine. if you like the humor, it's fine. If you like paranormal, fine. But overall, I just think the series is overhyped. At this point, I'm going to continue on because I'm already 14 books in the series. Now to talk about my 4-star reads. Coming in at 4 stars is going to be Magpie Murders by Anthony Horowitz. And I pulled this one out of my backlist jar, and to be quite honest, I was like, I don't really want to read any of these books out of my backlist jar. But I chose to read this one because I wanted to read a mystery thriller versus a romance. So I'm happy that I read it because I ended up giving it 4 stars. I really enjoyed this one. This is very homage to Agatha Christie. It's following this basically book editors, book publishers, and they are publishing this book, a mystery thriller author's book, and the mystery thriller author has died. And so they have this manuscript and they need to release this book, but they realize that some of the chapters are missing. So they're off to find out where the missing chapters are, and it's a book within a book. So like half the book is the story of the author that died, his story, the story that he wrote that's missing the pages. And then the other half of the book is trying to solve the mystery of who murdered the actual author. And so it pulled me out of the story a little bit when we were like moving back and forth because I was so invested in the first mystery, and then it kind of like jarred off, and then now we're going to spend hundreds of pages in this mystery. And so that was kind of really weird for me, but overall I enjoyed both mysteries. Both mysteries, I enjoyed the conclusions to both of them. However, one of them was kind of underwhelming, but I still enjoyed it as a whole, and I gave it 4 stars. My next 4-star read is The River of Silver by S.A. Chakraborty. I pulled this out of my own jar, and I finally read it. It's been a minute since I read the David Bond trilogy, so I did kind of have to recap myself on that. I wish I had read this closer to the time that I finished that series. This is just a collection of short stories in that world. Some of them I really liked, some of them were just okay. Overall, I really, really enjoyed being back in this world, and I gave it 4 stars. The next book that I gave 4 stars, and that I was kind of surprised I liked as much as I did, that's going to be Amari and the Great Game by B.B. Austin. I liked the first one, but then the more I got away from it, I couldn't remember all that happened in the first one. I think I gave the first one 4 stars as well, and I found myself really liking Amari again. I pulled this out of my series jar and really, really, really enjoyed this as well. I think the third one is coming out at some point. I'm not sure, but I think it's a trilogy, and really enjoyed this. Highly recommend. Again, we're following Amari. She's getting into hijinks. The first one was Amari and the Night Brothers, like I said, and she discovers that there is this magical world and she has magical abilities. We're continuing the mystery aspect in this one as well. Then also a 4-star read is going to be Jade City by Fonda Lee. I picked this up because I wanted to read fantasy. This month I was all about, I really, really, really am just such in a fantasy mood. And so I had heard thousands of things about this book, and so I decided to pick it up. And here's my thoughts. I gave it 4 stars. I don't seem to love it as much as everybody else does, but that's okay because we all like our own things. But this is very much not it is a fantasy. The only fantasy element in here, though, is a small fantastical element dealing with Jade. And Jade is this element, of course, that you can wear if you are from KCON, and it gives you abilities, healing abilities, some kind of super strength, that kind of thing. The main plot of the story is not really based on that. It is following these, say, mafia crime boss families. You have 2 of them. You have the No Peak Clan and the Mountain Clan, and just kind of like they're warring, and it's political and lots of family drama and aspects of the family, and that's kind of what Jade City is. And I liked it. I don't really like crime boss mafia things. I'm not into a mafia romance. I won't read it. I'm not into like mafia crime boss shows, drug shows. I won't really watch it. And so I wasn't sure if this was going to be my thing. I don't think, again, that I enjoyed it as much as other people did, but I did give it 4 stars. I did really fall in love with the characters, and I look forward to continuing on in the series. And the real shocker, the very real shocker of the month, my last read, my only 5-star read, was The Way of Shadows by Brent Weeks. I pulled this out of my own jar, and it's the second month in a row that I've pulled it. And so I was like, oh, well, I've pulled this 2 months in a row, I need to read it. It's a sign. And I read it and I loved it. And the aspect that I loved in this story was not that it was fantastically written, not that our main character, Kylar, I do not like the little love thing he's got going on. I didn't think that was very well done. But listen, the coming of age and the pacing in the story really just drew me in. We are following this boy who basically they're in a world where he has been taken, they're like child slaves or child gangs, and he really wants to get out of the gangs. And so there are some things that he does. He ends up kind of becoming the student of an assassin, and there's some political maneuvering here, there's some backstabbing in here, there's just a really great coming of age story. I'm not sure how the second one's going to go, but I'm really looking forward to diving into the second one. So much so that I'm going to get rid of my big omnibus bind up at some point when I get the newer paperback editions that look a lot better and I like them better. Alright, that's what I read in the month of March. Tell me what you read. Tell me what your favorite book of the month was. Tell me if you read any of the books that I read, and I will catch you guys at a later date.